Hi, I'm Dominique Blocker with City TV. Welcome to Inside Santa Barbara, the city's only news magazine show. We bring you up to date on the city's most significant issues, projects, and events. In Santa Barbara, we have many programs dedicated to helping the homeless in our community. But one of those programs is working to prevent people from needing those services to begin with. In our first story, Jordan Katz tells us about a collaborative effort to keep residents in homes of their own.
Homelessness has become an all too familiar experience for many people in the last few years. Local agencies, including the city, have taken up new projects to respond to the problem and prevent it in the first place. A collaborative of local organizations is now pooling its expertise to respond to all of the causes of homelessness, from landlord-tenant issues to domestic violence. Legal Aid and Transition House are two organizations responsible for the prevention part of the Homeless Prevention and Rapid Rehousing Program, or HPRP.
Legal Aid has been able to expand the services that we provide to the low income in our community with these stimulus dollars for the HPRP program. In the past, because of limited resources, we could never represent someone who was facing eviction due to non-payment of rent. With that ability, we can help tenants who are facing eviction because of non-payment. So we will work with the landlords, we will negotiate, we will send the tenant to our partner agencies to access those funds, and between those two programs, we're able to keep people in housing.
We have situations where there's low-income people and let's say they encounter health problems and they have to, let's say for one example, a lady needed to use an electric wheelchair and her landlord essentially said, no, you can't, we don't want you to have an electric wheelchair, you never asked us permission, and we don't really think we want to rent to you now that you're disabled, and gave her a notice. So that was one of my HPRP clients, and we dealt with her and raised her discrimination defenses, and we're able to get her adequate time and money to move and additional assistance so that she could make a transition from home to home rather than a transition from home to homelessness, especially when she's physically disabled.
Providing guidance and resources to people who are in danger of losing their homes is key to combating homelessness at the source.
For the most part, it revolves around an inability to earn enough money right now to pay their rent. And it usually tends to be that somebody lost a job or their hours were cut back to the point that they might have some income, but it's not enough to make that rent payment. And these are, you know, of course, low income earning households to begin with, people that are employed in service sector jobs that aren't high paying. So the family was already kind of on the edge.
For those who don't get the assistance they need in time to avoid homelessness, there are groups that specialize in rehousing them quickly. Santa Barbara's homeless shelter, Casa Esperanza, works to place people in subsidized apartments while they get back on their feet.
On the South Coast, any person who has a job or has benefits and enough revenue to allow them to be in housing, we have rapid rehousing funding that's available to help them get housed very, very quickly. In the past, before this money was available from the government, people would have to save their money over many, many periods of months to save money for their first month's rent, their deposit, in order to be housed, even though they had a job or they had Social Security benefits that would enable them to be housed.
This is when we come into play and help them. We can help them with either security or their first month's rent, and which is really, really helpful for them. The people get really excited about that because they can get into a place. And for a lot of them, it's members that are here, it's actually their first time being housed. So that's really exciting.
Casa Esperanza is involved in responding to homelessness at all levels every day of the year. But for 3 days every year, Casa puts on a health fair where community health organizations gather to offer their services to anyone in need. Flu shots, blood tests, shoes, survival backpacks, and mental health services are provided in an effort to motivate and treat people who are living on the street.
You know, and then there's two sides to this. There's the spiritual side. This is what you should be doing from your spiritual and moral values. If you don't care about that, then you should care that diseases don't stop at a door. Diseases don't recognize the homeless versus the housed. If diseases start going, everybody pays for it.
We basically outreach to all homeless persons so that we can provide them immunizations, we can provide TB testing, we provide HIV testing. We have more physicians and clinicians in the back, so if people need medical services, we can take them directly back to receive medical services today. We also help with referrals for dental services that we partner with here in Santa Barbara. With dental clinic, and also this year for the very first time we're performing what we call a vulnerability index, which is to help us identify actually where our homeless patients are, if they're on the streets or in the shelters.
People who come to this health clinic come for a variety of different reasons. Some come for food, others come for medical help, and others come back to CASA just to return the favor and help out.
I worked 25 years at a job and the alcohol and drug addiction was too much, and then I became an addict and I lost my home. I was 3 months behind in rent and I couldn't pay that. So I had a friend of mine drop me off at the Mission, and I stayed there approximately a week before winter shelter opened up here December 1st of last year, so I've been here almost a year. I am in the Women's Wellness Plan, and I made approximately 150 to 200 rape whistles for the project. I want to make sure people get the services they needed or help guide them in the right place, and just volunteer my time as much as I can today. I got up at 5 this morning to start.
Rodolfo has been homeless for the last month because of a foot injury that caused him to lose his job. He came to the health fair to take advantage of the free services.
It's been really nice. Everyone here is very friendly. We have everything. There are doctors, they give us food, and whatever problem we might have, there are people watching who can help. Everything here is really beautiful. If we have a problem that is beyond the services here, the police intervene and help fix those problems. Casa Esperanza is a really nice place, and I hope it lasts a long time. I hope that anyone who can donate money to this institution does, so that they can continue to provide all the help they have provided to these people, and to me as well.
A long time ago, as a social worker, you tried to put people in houses. And that's what you should get them income somehow. But they come back and they've taught me that there's a spiritual dimension to reach out, to treat people with dignity and as equal. And so I'm paid back. You don't make a lot of money in this field, but you do make, you get other gifts. And I'm appreciative of that.
HPRP and the health fair at Casa Esperanza are just two projects that have been implemented to combat homelessness in Santa Barbara. The Santa Barbara Downtown Organization, in partnership with the City of Santa Barbara, has created a campaign called Real Change, Not Spare Change, to bring attention to the problem. A host of Santa Barbara merchants place a donation box in their stores where people can drop change that will go directly to social services like Casa Esperanza.
Through research, it's been proven that the majority of the funds that are given to individuals panhandling on the street goes for negative substance abuse. It's not going to a sandwich or something good that you would think it would go to. So what we're doing is educating the public about that fact and then redirecting their generosity to giving to the Real Change, Not Spare Change campaign. And that money will be used for street outreach people who can come out and help individuals on the street know what resources are available.
We just want to get the word out, and we want more and more people to understand the importance of getting a bigger bang for your buck by giving money to the social services as opposed to the individuals. And just to know that State Street is very vital. The businesses are if not flourishing, we're doing well. It's a safe, fun place to come to.
As stakeholders from all sides of the issue come together to help those of our community in need, stories of success are what inspire people to keep going.
A successful case to us is a family that doesn't end up at the front door of our shelter. If we manage to keep them in housing, and if they learn the skills that they need to try and build a safety net around them should another life crisis happen, they're able to get through that. And so families and single individuals that want the case management services, that show up and they're willing to do the budgeting, they're willing to try and make that change, that's a huge success.
It's one of the few programs that are out there that isn't like, let's say, giving money to a bank to bail out a bank from the top down and then they're giving bonuses. This is actually going to people who are on the bottom of the economic food chain and trying to keep them from even going lower. So it's become kind of a good program just because it's sensitive to people's survival needs.
You know, I went to a really dark place for a year and a half. You know, don't do that. Get the help you need right away. Don't lose your family, don't lose your friends, and know that you have a lot more here. And just keep the faith.
More than 200 people have been helped through the HPRP program, and even more when you add in those assisted by other community programs. For more information on how you can help, visit bringsbcohome.org. Well, wildfire season may be ending, but as we've learned, in Santa Barbara County, we always need to be prepared. The city's fire department and homeowners associations are working together to create safer, more defendable neighborhoods. City TV's Valerie Tysander shows us how.
The Zaka Fire, the Gap Fire, the T Fire, the Jesucita Fire. Wildfires in our area aren't just a risk, they're a certainty. We can't control when or where they'll occur, but we can control how we prepare and how we respond. To ensure homes in the high fire hazard areas are as prepared as possible for the next wildfire, the city created the Wildland Fire Suppression Assessment District. Properties within this district pay a special tax, which in turn pays for a number of services. The first step is a defensible space inspection where specially trained firefighters evaluate a property's fire vulnerabilities.
And I spent probably a good hour and 15 minutes going around the entire house, and I've got a list about this long of the various things that they looked at and recommendations they made, and there was a few trees we had growing up against the house. We had a spruce and some other things that posed a significant risk, so we had those cleared out within a few weeks.
The key elements that we're looking for in defensible space is to remove any dead, flammable vegetation from landscaping. What we're also looking for is homeowners to remove fire ladders. And what we're looking for when we ask for removal of fire ladders is separation between vegetation. What that does is slow down the fire. So lifting canopies off of plants, keeping ground cover and shrubs to a lower level, providing that separation, and then keeping vegetation away from their structure. And the closer vegetation is to their structure, keeping it lower, keeping it more well irrigated and green and really free of dead. Those are probably the biggest things that homeowners can do to maintain defensible space, even with their existing landscaping.
Defensible space isn't just a theory. It's a strategy with a proven track record. There are many stories highlighting the success of defensible space from the recent fires. One of the more notable happened here at the St. Mary's Seminary during the Tea Fire.
They had just done some clearance on the, I'd say it was the west-facing slope, and as the Tea Fire progressed westward, it hit this slope, and it was looking touch and go at that point. But because that vegetation had been removed, that fire hit that slope, and it slowed down in intensity, and no structures were lost in St. Mary's because of that.
If you would like to see what defensible space looks like, the Fire Escape Garden at Stanwood Drive and Mission Ridge Road is a great place to start.
Although we provide books and pamphlets and there's access on the internet, a lot of people need hands-on reference, need to go and visualize the plants, see what they look like, see key examples of spacing and plant height, and that's what the Fire Escape Garden does. It's a really nice area that the city's set up for homeowners to take a walk through and see what it is that we're asking for when we're recommending different plants and different landscape types in the different zones within defensible space.
Other services provided in the assessment district focus on access and fuels management.
We offer chipping services for homeowners. Homeowners have the opportunity to take any vegetation that they've cut to clear that defensible space and put it out on the roadways to be picked up and hauled away. We also offer vegetation roadside clearance, and what that project does is help open up roadways to help homeowners leave the area and fire engines and firefighting resources to come into the area during an evacuation in times of emergency. And we also provide vegetation management projects where we work with large groups of private property owners to do clearance on the larger parcels. And what these areas do is they're strips of homes where if we go in and we can tie these neighborhoods together to do clearance, it becomes more effective and a better buffer at slowing down the fire in key areas throughout the high fire area of the city.
The initial phase of brush clearance on roads in the high fire hazard areas began in late August.
They're cutting back vegetation about 10 feet on either side and up to about 13 feet wherever they can, and they're doing it sensitively, so they're not hacking at the bushes. But we ask all the homeowners to realize that it is in the city municipal code that they're responsible for that vegetation and to keep it back.
Homeowner associations in the high fire hazard areas, like the Riviera Association, have been important partners in building and maintaining that understanding.
We've been working a lot with Amber Anderson and Ann Marks, basically both with the city fire department, and in several ways. One is to educate the Riviera residents that those resources are there, and to educate the residents about what the fire department's been trying to do. And then we also post the information on our website, and there's a road clearance program that's basically starting right now, and there's a schedule on the website that shows what streets will be cleared so residents can kind of see what to expect. And what's great about that, it gives them a chance to actually go out there and do some clearing on their own property, put those materials out by the street side, and when those crews come through, they'll go ahead and chip all that stuff, and if you want it, they'll put it back on your property. If you don't want the chip material, they'll haul it away and it's gone.
These homeowner associations are now joining together to establish a radio communications network that could provide a critical link in the case of any emergency.
So if we lose all communications and cell phones stop working, that network will still be here. And they can inform the fire department and sheriff where there are injuries or special help needed for people, or there's food or water issues that we've got to address. And so that'll be the communication network that will still be there, hopefully if we do have an earthquake or some other major event.
Firefighters say their efforts can only go so far. They say the key to successful wildfire results is personal responsibility.
I think the people that live in the high fire hazard areas and the extreme fire hazard areas understand that they're living with nature and that they're taking responsibility in their own hands for protecting, for providing for that buffer space, that defensible space around their own homes. As a city, as a fire department, we're here to help them, and so we offer a lot of resources and we provide a lot of benefits. But it's that personal responsibility that's the key component to success in this story.
The fire department will be here to help fight the fire and coordinate things, but it's got to be up to the individual homeowner to take their own action and be responsible for the outcome.
What we're seeing is homeowners understanding now what it means when we say we need clearance from the roadways or we need defensible space in this area. They're maintaining it, and that's where we can be more successful in the long run because we can apply the funds for the assessment district over broader areas.
For more information on wildfire preparation, visit santabarbara.ca.gov/wildland. We'll be right back with more Inside Santa Barbara.
This municipal course is exceptional.
It's just in better shape than it's ever been before.
This is the place to be if you really want to learn how to play golf.
You get a great course for the price.
Definitely affordable.
Great values on merchandise in the pro shop.
It's a nice, friendly atmosphere.
Mention this ad for a free sleeve of balls with a round of play.
I just had my weekly lecture about spending too much money.
What do you have to say this time?
I couldn't understand most of it. All I could get was pesos don't grow on trees.
There they are, ready to go to dinner. Fred's buying.
I'll be right back. I'm going to get my other wallet. This one has my money in it.
Fred, I have a plan. Do you want to hear it?
Lucy, we're still recuperating from your last plan.
I want to start a recycling program for the apartment building.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Oh, Ricky! listen to you. Tell him I have a wonderful plan for the building that won't cost him a cent.
Let's see. My scatterbrain wife has another half-witted scheme. If you listen to it, you're out of your mind.
Boy, did that suffer in translation. Fred, it will help the environment and lower the apartment's trash bill, which means money in your pocket.
Lucy, this is one scheme that makes sense. Dollars and cents.
Oh, Periscope.
Can't see anything. Sir, the crew's concerned about the amount of disposable bags we have on board. I will not hear of such things. Flood torpedo tubes. Flood torpedo tubes. Fire torpedo. Fire torpedo! Sir, it's a misfire. Disposable bags are jamming the tube. Captain, we've got to get rid of these bags and start using canvas reusables! Mister, I will not hear of this talk of treason. All ahead full, right full rudder. All ahead full, right full rudder! Engineering, what's going on down there?
Sir, we've been sabotaged by disposable bags!
Okay.
Welcome back. Libraries offer a wide variety of services for residents, but have you been to your local library lately? Channel 18's Jeff Goodvin gives us plenty of reasons to stop by and check it out. The Santa Barbara Public Library System provides library services at the Central and East Side Libraries in Santa Barbara, in Solvang, Goleta, Carpinteria, Montecito, Santa Ynez, and Los Olivos. Our public libraries ensure community members have free access to a wide variety of materials and services. In 2009, the Central and East Side Libraries, our city branches, had over 622,000 visitors, checked out almost 750,000 items, provided over 250,000 computer sessions, and hosted hundreds of programs, story times, and class visits for children. The library connects community members of all ages, heritage, and socioeconomic backgrounds with high-quality resources and programs that aim to inform, educate, and enrich people's lives.
It's convenient, very, very convenient. And of course, for the children who live in this neighborhood, they can walk here. And I think that's, the advantage that I see to it.
Many people think of the library as a place to check out books. But how does that book get to you? When you check out a book, you can use one of the self-checkout stations. You can also renew materials on the internet or by phone.
The services are so wide in range, and there's just so many things to do in this library here. You have books, the CDs, the computers.
What if the book you want isn't on the shelf? Or for that matter, what if the CD, DVD, audiobook, or magazine is in the catalog but not on the shelf at your library? You can place a hold on an item and have it delivered to your library for pickup. You may also reserve materials from your home, office, or library through the internet. Every day, hundreds of items are shipped between our libraries to better meet the needs of our users. Librarians are always available in person, by phone, or by computer to assist you. Do you need a repair manual for a classic 56 Chevy? Want to learn how to download audiobooks to play on a computer or MP3 player? Need help with your research project, whether it's a high school report or your next book? Interested in your family's genealogy or looking for grant opportunities? Want to set up an email account or get some computer coaching? The library's reference staff can help. The library also has online databases you can use. The reference department's professional staff will guide you through the wide range of resources available at the library.
A month ago, there was a librarian who helped me find Charles Dickens, and she told me where the books were and some places that I can specifically find about him. So without her, I don't think I would have found anything.
I would say, I have to find this out. And they would give me clues about how to look, where to look, how to dig out information that no one had been able to get. And also to be able to find a really helpful, friendly staff that I could call up and say, hi, I've got a really weird thing I need you to track down. And they'd be like bulldogs. Oh yeah, let's get it.
The library's Youth Services Department offers programs and services for children and families.
Especially moms that have little kids. Taken to the library, there is a program that they read books to them and they tell them stories, or like puppet stories that they bring into the programs in the library.
Soy el rey de la montaña.
All year long, the Central Library and all branch libraries offer story times for preschoolers. The Central Library provides a special infant story time weekly. In addition, Central and East Side host regular bilingual story times. During the summer, the library provides summer reading programs with fun incentives for children and teens.
I like mystery books, so I know where that section is. So whenever I get here, I go straight to that section and choose a book and then check it out. I get 2 or 3 at a time.
Each month, special performers such as musicians, magicians, and storytellers visit our libraries to perform for children and their families. During the summer, the library hosts a performance every week. The library recognizes the relationship between reading to young children, early library use, and successful learning. The library reaches low-income families and children through the preschool outreach program. Library storytellers visit participating preschools every month.
Books are so important. We do books every day in our classroom. It gives children words, vocabulary, it connects them to things that are happening in the world. The story that Oscar did today with the strawberry, they're all eating strawberries, they're learning about good health. And then again, his animation with the books, it just brings them to life for the children. So we really encourage, we send books home with our children. I go to the library as a teacher to get books for my classroom. It's just so valuable.
The library's Reading is Fundamental program distributes over 3,000 free books each year to second and third graders at participating public elementary schools.
Our parents felt so inspired by our willingness, your willingness to meet them again. They're incredibly thankful for the opportunity and the resources that the public library brings to them.
Through our Reach Out and Read program, the library works with county health clinics to provide brand new books to low-income children at their checkups. Volunteers provide free tutoring through the library's adult literacy program. Over 3,000 men and women have built their basic skills at the library over the past 23 years.
It's fun because they see the mom that she's learning, she's improving, and she knows a lot of things. Yeah. So.
Do you read with your daughters?
Oh yeah, I like to read, and they like me to read them. Until now, I'm still reading them at night before they go to bed.
If she wouldn't be able to speak Spanish or English, she couldn't help me on my homework.
One key to the quality of our service is volunteer support. Volunteers contribute thousands of hours each year, demonstrating the community's commitment to the library and reflecting the civic spirit associated with Santa Barbara. You can help your library by joining the Friends of the Library, a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising funds for library materials, programs, and services.
That's why I'm a friend of the library, because I really think that that's very important, that all children and young adults appreciate the wonders of being able to read.
We invite you to visit the library and see what's new. Whether you are a regular library user or you haven't dropped in since you were a kid, we bet you'll find something new and exciting. Your library is here for you.
It's something that we tend to think is always there,
and especially in these tough economic times, to have the community come together and, you know, work, whether it's through Friends of the Library or our library board, to do what you can to make sure that the services are there for everybody.
For more information on our public library system, visit sbplibrary.org. Well, if you were near the Santa Barbara airport in early October, you may have come across a dramatic scene. But it wasn't a major accident. City TV's Valerie Tysaner has the real story.
Screaming sirens of ambulances, fire engines, and police cars generally aren't a good sign. But on October 6th, they were, as emergency responders were out in force at the Santa Barbara airport.
During takeoff from runway 25, aircraft is on fire on the Forest Service ramp in several pieces. Unknown fuel and persons on board.
It was the triannual emergency drill. The Santa Barbara airport staged a plane crash to help emergency operations prepare for a potential major aircraft disaster. After receiving a call, emergency operations rushed to the scene. This drill fulfills the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA's, mandate that each airport hold a full-scale emergency drill every 3 years.
The Federal Aviation Administration has a requirement that every 3 years, all commercial service airports that have regularly scheduled airline service do a full-scale emergency exercise of their emergency plan, and the requirement is also that that exercise incorporate an aircraft crash, since the emergency plan covers natural disasters and other things, but you know, the most pressing issue that usually occurs is an aircraft accident, so they prefer that you drill on that.
Guys are all going to be going in different ambulances to the hospital, okay? We're going to be separating you very soon.
The drill must involve a realistic scene, including crash victims and all the local emergency organizations that would respond to an actual aviation emergency.
The EMT class from Santa Barbara City College, they sent 60 students that were moulaged, you know, the fake blood and guts and all that stuff. That's a really good drill for us and all of the responding agencies to do our triage on those people, set up our medical treatment area, work with AMR, and get those people to the ambulance.
To add to the realism of the crash scene, makeup artists helped the volunteer victims look the part by covering them in wounds, bandages, and fake blood.
Does it look bad?
Looks hideous.
Yeah.
Actors portraying distraught family members pressed airline workers for information about their loved ones, as the airlines tried their best to calm them and to confirm exactly who was on the plane.
I want to know what's going on.
In addition to the considerable emergency response by field personnel, the airport also opened its Emergency Operations Center. Staff at the center were responsible for coordinating all communications coming from the simulated disaster and disseminating it to families and the news media.
It's never been done before. The airport drills have usually been encapsulated and they work with it among themselves. And so what happens is when they make phone calls or they fax messages, it was usually to nowhere. It was to some fictitious fax machine. This way they were able to fax, they were able to communicate, they were able to find out, you know, if I ordered something, when it was coming, who was bringing it, and by having the logistics section open at the EOC, they were able to help manage the resources that were being ordered. And by having the public information here, it kept the city administrator, the mayor and council knowing what's going on at the airport.
Where we're communicating with the field and thinking ahead, what are they going to need hours ahead, having logistics and finance and planning work together to get things on the way here, you know, ahead of time, so we're waiting less and kind of working in front of the incident.
If there is an incident at the airport, all the streets are going to be closed off. You're not going to have access. The airport already has high security as it is. So this way it kept the city informed of what was going on.
Cooperation of the agencies was paramount to the success of the drill. Every person had a specific and crucial role. Not only did student volunteers dress up as victims, but months of planning went into ensuring that the drill was realistic. Every person had to know what to do and where to be.
The easiest part of it is finding a scenario. The hardest part is getting all of the local jurisdictions to come together. And we did a functional exercise where we brought in all the players that we knew were going to be at least in the departmental operating center. And we did a full-scale or a functional exercise there. We did a debrief. We saw some things that needed to be corrected. And then we started planning the full-scale drill.
You can walk towards the cars. Walk towards the police car, guys.
One area that showed significant improvement over the last drill was communication.
We had police, fire, and airport personnel hooking up in the field right away and talking to each other about resources that were needed, so that was very good.
City officials in charge of the emergency drill said that it was a success.
All of these drills kind of help us to create the next drills and the next scenarios, and it actually helps us to create collaboration with all the outside agencies that we need to work with during a disaster.
One of the certification and safety inspectors that work out of the Los Angeles Regional Office did come out and evaluate the drill, and they were very pleased because they got to see what they want to see, and that is all the agencies outlined in our emergency plan out there in that field working together.
The airport's next disaster response exercise will take place in 2013. It's something we use every day, but I would bet not many of us put much thought into our wastewater treatment system. And though not needing to think about it means it's doing its job, learning more about the services that affect our daily lives can help us appreciate them. Jeff Goodvin takes us on a tour of El Estero.
Okay, go with your teacher, please.
Adams Elementary School children were on a quest to learn what happens to water after it goes down the drain in your home. This led them to take the tour of the El Estero wastewater treatment plant.
We're going to be going downstairs into our influent pump station, and that's the first pump station where all the wastewater comes into the plant.
Well, an important part of teaching kids about water is teaching them about wastewater, and most people, even adults, don't know where their wastewater goes or what we do to it. So we find it important to sort of make an environmental impact by telling them that we clean the wastewater before it's released to the ocean, so they know the difference between stormwater that isn't cleaned and wastewater that is cleaned, and they can learn about the interesting biological processes that happen here.
The El Estero wastewater treatment plant was first built in the early 1980s and operational then, and its purpose is to collect the wastewater generated from the city of Santa Barbara through about 265 miles of gravity sewer main, take that sewage and treat it to standards where it's acceptable to discharge into the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Santa Barbara and the Santa Barbara Channel.
These are where the bugs live. These are where the microorganisms live. And if you see those waterfalls all the way on the other side of the tank, that's the water coming from the primary tanks, and that's food for the microorganisms. They actually eat your waste.
Part of our science curriculum to understand how we deal with our local water, where it comes from and how we treat it and how it's dealt with. And another reason is just, kids should know what happens when they flush the toilet and where water goes.
An average person in Santa Barbara contributes 80 gallons of water each day to the wastewater system. Given that there are 90,000 people in Santa Barbara, that's an equivalent of 11 Olympic-sized pools of wastewater processed at El Estero each day.
The treatment plant itself has a capacity of around 11 million gallons a day, and we're running at about 7 million gallons a day or so. We have the capacity to create approximately 4 million gallons per day of reclaimed water.
Even though the process at El Estero can seem complicated and large in scale, the most important thing is for the children to learn.
The most important thing that they learn, I think, is what happens to water that goes down the drain. And that's something that a lot of people don't know, and so it's interesting for something that happens every single day. Water goes down the drain, down the toilet. They'll know where it goes, and they know it's not going to harm the environment and it's not going to harm them. And they also learn all the important things that come out of it, like the biosolids and the recycled water, because most of their schools are on recycled water.
Now, when we create recycled water, We take that secondary effluent and we run it through an additional process, a filtering process. And then the tertiary water is disinfected, and that goes into the reclaimed water distribution system.
Recycled water is used for irrigation at several city parks, Santa Barbara City College, most public schools, the Santa Barbara Zoo, Highway 101 Median Landscaping, Best Parker's Doubletree Inn, Earl Warren Showgrounds, Montecito Country Club, and at the Santa Barbara Golf Club.
Yeah, we'll have a sign right on our entrance to our campus that says that we use reclaimed water for watering, and I bet you most of those kids have never read that sign. So we'll point that out and talk about that.
A lot of us like to surf or fish or go in the water, so we take a lot of pride to make sure that the water we go in is safe for us and for everybody else in Santa Barbara.
At El Estero, wastewater is cleaned using both physical and biological processes.
And the first step we take it through is called preliminary treatment. And that's where we take out big particles, sticks, stones, things of that nature that can't pass through a screen that's about a ½ inch wide or so. That material gets chopped up, stuff that passes through the screen, and then it is pumped up to our preliminary treatment process where we take it through grit treatment and some chemical addition. The grit removal process, takes out things like sand, eggshells, coffee grounds, small particles that can easily be removed by this physical process. After that, we go to primary treatment. In primary treatment, we remove suttleable solids, and we get out about 60% of our total suspended solids in the primary treatment process, as well as about 35% of our biochemical oxygen demand. That's associated with those particles slowly settling to the bottom of very large tanks. After primary treatment, we go to what's called secondary treatment. And secondary treatment is a biological process. In that process, basically, we're using bacteria to eat other bacteria. And in that process, remove the bacterial concentration in the wastewater such that we've removed approximately 90% of our total suspended solids and approximately 90% of our biochemical oxygen demand. After disinfection, which is the last process, to discharge into the Pacific Ocean. And when we discharge into the ocean here, we're sending it out into the Santa Barbara Channel and discharging it about 1.5 miles offshore at a depth of 70 feet of water. So it's going out there pretty deep and getting diluted with regular ocean water.
The tour took the children throughout the entire plant.
The biggest impact for the kids would be the stinky tank. It's really just microorganisms floating to the top, but it smells bad and it looks pretty crazy.
Well, I had one student inside who said, "Mr. Gardan, just show them pictures of this. Don't bring them here next year." And the whole time she was covering her nose. But I think with being away from it in a couple of days, she'll change her tune and she'll be happy that she got to come and visit the plant.
After the tour was over, Adam's school children expressed what they learned and what part of the tour was their favorite.
Like the microorganisms, what they do, and how they clean the sludge.
Where the water goes after it goes down the drain.
My favorite part was when we got to go to the tanks where the microscopic animals were, the little bugs were.
Like how it gets treated and how the poop and all the chemicals get sifted out.
My favorite part of the tour was the not smelly part.
What do you think about the fact that your school uses recycled water?
I think it's good for the environment, and so we don't have to waste all our drinking water.
Well, I think their biggest takeaway is understanding that storm water versus the water that we use and goes down the drain, that there's a big difference. That the gutters and storm water is going straight to the ocean, and it's very important that we don't pollute that water, and that the waters that are going down the drain is at least getting treated somewhat. So that's a big takeaway for me.
As the Adams Elementary School children get on the bus, hopefully they take with them the knowledge that El Estero is doing its best for a more sustainable future.
The El Estero wastewater treatment plant has a very bright future, and it's centered on sustainability. When we talk about sustainability, we're talking both of environmental sustainability and economic sustainability. We're also reducing our carbon footprint and thus, making this treatment plant more sustainable and helping the community in that regard.
For more information on water quality, visit santabarbaraca.gov/water. We'll be right back.
It's a handsome idea, this recycling of the glass jar that held a spicy marinade. Diverting materials from the landfill? Another beautiful thing. It's good for the earth. It's good for you. And recycling when paying bills is nothing short of gorgeous. Santa Barbara. Now recycling is sexy.
This municipal course is exceptional.
It's just in better shape than it's ever been before.
This is the place to be if you really want to learn how to play golf.
You get a great course for the price.
Definitely affordable. Great values on merchandise in the pro shop. It's a nice, friendly atmosphere.
Mention this ad for a free sleeve of balls with a round of play. No matter where you surf, your favorite wave begins right here, on your street. That's because storm drains lead straight to our creeks and ocean. When water washes into storm drains, pollutants like detergents, oil, and pet waste go along for the ride. Help keep our creeks and beaches clean. Take your car to a car wash and always pick up after your pet. Remember, the ocean begins on your street. Welcome back. Santa Barbara is bustling with all kinds of transportation, from cars to scooters and skateboards and buses and beach cruisers. With so many different modes, sharing the road is essential to keeping our community the bustling town that it is.
As we all know, not all vehicles are created equal. Sharing roadways becomes especially important for bicyclists and motorists whose safety is at stake on busy streets. While bike lanes on wide streets are effective in keeping cyclists and motorists safely separate, narrower streets leave cyclists with little room to avoid opening car doors and motorists free from swerving cyclists. In an effort to prevent these types of accidents, the city began installing shared lane markings, or sharrows, on streets with high bike-car collision rates.
Research done in San Francisco has shown that using sharrows in the road, drivers give more space to cyclists while riding on the roadway while passing them, and bicyclists give themselves more room between themselves and parked car doors and mirrors, making it safer for all users of the road.
After 3 years of safe sharrowing on those streets, the city is expanding the project to include a number of streets where the sharrow could be useful.
Sharrows is their nickname. The shared lane markings are defined by the California Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And what it says is that the sharrows are 9 feet long. The logo, it consists of 2 chevrons which show the direction of travel and a bicyclist logo. And they have to be located only where there's parking along the roadway and where there's no bike lane already there. They have to be located at least 11 feet out from the curb itself.
The sharrow is meant to invite bicyclists to ride completely in the lane with motorists on streets where there are at least 2 lanes in each direction. Motorists, in turn, are expected to treat cyclists in the sharrow lanes as slow-moving vehicles and pass them on the left. The idea is to avoid the common causes of bike and car collisions.
So if you have a vehicle, say a 3,000-pound vehicle traveling down the road, and you have a bicyclist it can get pretty hairy, especially if the car gets too close. Now, if you have somebody in a vehicle who is using a cell phone or not paying attention, they have a tendency to maybe waver a little bit or swerve. And if they go into a bicyclist, then you're going to have a pretty tragic accident.
If you're right in front of a car, they'll see you. There's no doubt about it. If you're off to the side, they may not see you. And the danger of opening a door, I think it's about 5% of bicyclist crashes involve car doors opening into them. And that's a serious situation.
One tactic many cyclists use to avoid cars on busy streets is riding on the sidewalk. This, however, can do more harm than good.
Part of the problem that we have with education is that we assume that if we know how to ride a bicycle, we know how to ride one safely and legally, and that is not always true. And every time we see someone on the road or a cyclist on the road runs a stop sign, breaks the law, weaves between lanes, things that are not legal or safe, they are not only endangering themselves, but they're setting up a bad example and a bad experience, which reflects on the rest of us and creates problems.
A bicyclist, again, has to follow the same rules as a vehicle. So my advice to bicyclists would be pretend that the other driver has not seen you unless you actually make eye contact with that person. And sometimes when you have a vehicle where the windows are tinted and you can't see that, then assume that that person has not seen you and drive with even more caution.
The research in San Francisco shows that using sharrow markings in the roadway reduces the number of cyclists riding on the sidewalks and wrong way riding on the streets. And anyone who's driven a car in Santa Barbara or walked down a sidewalk has probably faced some frustrations with people riding their bikes on the sidewalks or riding the wrong way on the road. Most of the crashes that are caused by bicyclists are actually because they're riding on the sidewalk or riding the wrong way on the street. So using these markings actually increase safety because people feel more comfortable using the road, which is the correct and safe place for them to be visible to all users of the road, to be visible to the people driving, and out of the way of people walking on the sidewalks.
The introduction of sharrows doesn't mean a change in the status quo. Cyclists have always had the right to ride in the same lanes as motorists, but many are hesitant for a variety of reasons.
It's challenging to, get more people to cycle on streets that don't have any indication that cyclists are welcome. Okay, if there's no bike lane, then very few people are comfortable getting out there and riding in the traffic lane. And we can't get more folks out cycling, particularly women with children, particularly older people, if we don't create an environment where bicyclists are welcome. So the sharrow is really a welcoming device. It's really an attempt to encourage safe sharing of the roads. In the case of cyclists trying to share roads that don't have any kind of markings, is we tend to see motorists veering around cyclists very quickly, being impatient when they're behind cyclists, encourages motorists to slow down and wait until there's a safe time to go around the cyclist.
Mia Burke has acted as the bicycle program manager for the City of Portland and a consultant for promoting bicycle-friendly city planning internationally. The sharrow has been utilized in the United States for over a decade, evolving from unique innovation to go-to solution.
The sharrows have been kind of evolving for a long time. Denver and Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and San Francisco had been really the cities that had started putting in sharrows. But there were also dozens of European cities that had put in variations on the sharrow. But I was, as a consultant, hired by the city of San Francisco to experiment with sharrows. The city of San Francisco is a city with lots of pretty narrow streets and a lot of competition for that street space, and a lot of people parking and a lot of people already cycling. We did a study of 10 streets where we experimented with a couple of different types of markings, and we found that the sharrow helps position cyclists correctly outside the door zone. We found that cyclists said overwhelmingly that it increased their feelings of safety. We also found that motorists overwhelmingly said they liked the sharrow. It helped them understand that cyclists were going to be on the road. So basically, San Francisco got the ball rolling in the biggest way. They took the biggest leap forward. Then California took the next big leap forward, and then the national guidelines followed. Cities all throughout the United States are using them now.
The Sharrow's integration into Santa Barbara's transportation system is expected to be seamless, as the symbol only reinforces established rules of the road.
Just seeing that on the road indicates that there will be bicyclists in this location. So, people see it and they know that the bicyclist knows and the driver knows what's going to be happening.
The Sharrow and bike lanes are tools to help invite cyclists, and the Sharrow is one of the small steps in the right direction.
Santa Barbara is one of about a dozen cities to incorporate the Sharrow into its transit system. If you would like more information on bicycle safety, visit santabarbaraca.gov. Well, our new Christmas tree is now in place on State Street, and Channel 18's Jeff Goodman gives us an idea of what it takes to get this Santa Barbara icon in place. Well, that does it for our final episode of 2010. From all of us here at City TV, we'd like to wish you a very happy holiday season and a wonderful start to 2011. And as always, if you have any questions or comments about the show, give us a call at 564-5311. And you can always watch all of our programming online at citytv18.com. Thanks for watching, and remember to get involved inside Santa Barbara. No matter where you surf, your favorite wave begins right here, on your street. That's because storm drain feeds straight to our creeks and ocean, When water washes into storm drains, pollutants like detergents, oil, and pet waste go along for the ride. Help keep our creeks and beaches clean. Take your car to a car wash and always pick up after your pet. Remember, the ocean begins on your street.